Good morning, good afternoon. It depends on what part of the world you're in, but welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone, and for those of you that have been watching this for a while, you know that the premise of this podcast is that I have combined my love of cooking and my love of business, because the one thing I discovered that both have in common is there's always one ingredient or technique that are absolutely crucial to the outcome and the success of whatever you're trying to do. So the reason I mentioned morning versus afternoon is our guest today is in Australia at the current time. And let's see, Dee, what is it, 6 o'clock in the morning, Thursday, your time?
Yes, it is. I'm in the future. So if anything you need to know what happens, just ping me.
I love that. I love that. So, Dee and I have been connected through LinkedIn for it feels like a couple of years now. I'm not sure. But she has her little hands in lots of different pots. And so we're going to kind of bounce around between topics. But we're going to start with allowing her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her company, Unstoppable Teams.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Coming to you from Sydney, Australia. Thank you very much, Nancy, for having me on board. And luckily, I am a morning person. A little bit about me. I'm a mother of two boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm very passionate about bringing up to really good humans in the world. And then my other love, obviously, is business and helping businesses to grow and doing it ethically and responsibly, connecting to good people who are business owners, because I do believe that we as good business owners can have a positive impact on our little world. And if we all band together, then we all grow a better place for everybody to live in. So in a nutshell.
I absolutely love the fact that it's even in your title that you help businesses grow ethically and responsibly.
Yep.
Because that's going to just help me dive right into our topic of virtual assistants, which I know is what your company essentially does.
Yes.
VAs, that's the common slang right now. And I think there's a little bit of misconceptions, controversy, et cetera, around what a VA is, who they are, what they can do. I know I've looked into it. I was looking into it actually with you last year. I think that might have been pre-COVID or during COVID. But anyway, right before our world blew up. And then I started hearing people bragging about their cheap VAs, that they, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what I can get done for $5 an hour. And it just kind of turned my stomach. It turned me off. So I really want to hear from you, somebody who lives this in this world. What are the advantages of VAs? What are the disadvantages? What can they do? Just tell us a little bit more about what it really is.
Yeah. So a VA is somebody who works remotely from you and is able to do all manner of tasks that don't need customer facing, basically. My business uses staff that are based in the Philippines, and I ensure, as that sort of cultural bridge, I ensure that they're being paid correctly, treated correctly, working in good office environments, etc. And I'm also making sure, from the business owner's perspective, that your business has all the security around it from a data perspective, data security perspective, and that you're getting what you need this person to do in a responsible way so that your business grows. So the advantages of getting a VA is obviously cost savings. So depending on what level of staff you need, you can save up to 70 to 50% on a staff member. Now, I'm all for employing locally, so don't get me wrong. I love the idea of employing locally and growing a local community. But then the reality as a business owner comes in, and there are some tasks that are very repetitive that don't need, you could save costs, that they're just a repeat, rinse. That's where a VA can really help a business, because A, you save costs on getting somebody to do that at a lower price, but then you and your local team can focus on what really matters to your business and hire valued roles, I guess you could say. So that's sort of in a nutshell. But then there's also having a VA helps you to systemize and process your business. And we look at McDonald's, it's all just system and process.
Right,
so
right.
every business, once you get virtual staff, it's like, it tightens up your processes. You get things done faster. And I actually do get business owners who come to me and say, I don't want to have to handle the day-to-day relationship of another staff member.
There's that for sure.
Yeah. So having a VA means you don't have to have all that small talk. And I mean, you can have a relationship. I'm not saying it needs to be cold, but yeah, it's just a little different. And then for larger organizations, it literally comes down to, well, before COVID, rent space to house all these people in an office. It's like, oh, I can outsource some of these jobs and not have to get a bigger office. Or for the solopreneurs, where are they going to sit this person? They can't have this person come to their house and work. So there's quite a few, a lot, I think, advantages of getting a virtual assistant.
So what would you say the difference is between a remote employee and a virtual assistant? Yep. Because they're kind of the same, but they're kind of different.
Yeah, and before COVID, nobody worked remote, right? So now, everyone works remote. So the main difference there is, yes, it's a remote worker, but these guys are based in the Philippines, so that the cost to you as the business owner is less. So that would probably be the main difference, between having a onshore remote worker as opposed to an offshore virtual assistant.
Awesome. Well, we have our first comment. Dee, what you and your business do for your clients and your VAs creates a better world for both parties. The fact that you're doing this ethically is really cool, which that's, like I say, that's the thing that was attractive to me about you in the first place, is just that you had a very high standard for how you do business.
We need to sleep at night, right? So we're all in business to help our customers. And you need to be able to sleep at night and go, I've done the right thing by my customers and I've done the right thing by my staff. And there are a lot of cowboys out there who get you a virtual assistant, but they're the equivalent to modern day slave drivers. And it's like, as a business owner, as you said, when you had people boasting about how cheap they could get a person, we're still talking about a human being here.
Right.
And so, and if that makes you feel yuck like it does to me, then there's a better way to do it. There's an ethical and responsible way to do it. And therefore, you win as a business owner because, yes, you're saving a cost on a resource, a team member, but then that person is being treated correctly in the Philippines where they work.
So what are the disadvantages of having a VA? Because I'm sure you have to weigh the pros and cons. So
So I had to have a think about this one. And the only disadvantages that come up is if you get a virtual assistant, not the wrong way, but just not the right way. So there are, like I said, there are cowboys out there who will sign you up the cheapest person. So that means the person who's working for you may not have the right qualifications. So the recruitment side, they're just going for the cheapest. And no offense, but they might be getting people who've just walked off the production line at the Philippines version of McDonald's, which is called Jollibee, and so, of course they're going to be cheap as chips, but are they the best fit for what you need in your business? So there's that. And then when you don't do it correctly, there's a risk to your company's data security. So a lot of the VAs do admin tasks that have things to do with customer care, your customer database. Sometimes they can be actually helping you with payroll. What's another one? Resourcing, all of that. And you need to make sure that they're in a secure environment so that there's no leaks. Because otherwise you've got to face the music when your whole customer database gets copied and used for scamming. So you've got to make sure that there's a robust system around that. So again, these are the disadvantages if it's not done correctly. We've spoken about the fact that, there are modern day slave drivers out there. And what else? And going disadvantage. If you go to the cheapest person available, you're not necessarily going to get what you need for your business. So you as a business owner really need to think, do I want a reactive person who just is processing, which is going to obviously be quite cheap? Or do you want someone who's also proactive? So they come in with a little bit of experience and a little bit of knowledge and can actually add to your business through their ideas on how to help and grow.
I like that. So,
yeah.
okay. So my last question on the VAs is,
Hmm.
so, and I don't know what the difference from here to the Philippines is, but how do you deal with the time differences?
Yeah.
Are you giving them jobs that they don't need to communicate with you very much, or how does that come? How does that work? So
You can do it either way. Most people in America, or most of the tasks, actually, again, it really depends on what you need. If you need to be speaking to your VA, it's their night shift. They will work the night shift to match in with you. They will work your holidays so that you're both off on the same day, that kind of thing. But a lot of our US clients also, if they're in the customer service, shopping, live chat, they'll actually have the VA cover the night shift for them.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
that makes
States.
sense.
Yeah, so if you're getting if your business is 24/7, you can receive customer inquiries, you can have someone there who answers the little chat box that comes up if people, so they will work to whatever you need, shift that you need them to work.
Awesome. So I do know, because we chatted about it at the very beginning before we went live, that you are expanding your services a little bit more into the US.
Yes.
So that's
yes.
very exciting.
Correct. So we will obviously announce it officially on LinkedIn. Oh, we've let the cat out of the bag. But we have put together a joint venture with an amazing man based in New York, and he will be helping us just to expand our reach into the US so that we can still offer our services, but he's coming in there with an American flair, which we need, because even though we speak the same language, there are some culture differences when it comes to communicating with business owners. So I've had a crash course, and I find it fascinating that just a little slight tweak in the language that we use when we're writing, not necessarily, make sure that it's not taken out of context. So yeah, interesting. But yes, we will be announcing that on LinkedIn. So
that's fun. Okay, so we're going to switch gears for a minute.
Yeah.
And another pot you have your hands in is valuable business conversations.
Yes.
So what is a valuable business conversation, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, so this is a little collaboration I did with a lovely lady in Melbourne, Australia, called Sandy Colombo, and we both had our own businesses. I can't remember how we met because it's been 7 years, but we individually were having conversations with business owners, me in particular, because I was attracting business owners that needed to grow and were looking at outsourcing as a strategy. She is a business executive leadership coach, and we were sharing the same stories and going, wow, this business needs to speak to this business, and they're learning, and as a business owner, you get siloed, and sometimes you get siloed in an industry. So Nancy, you're in the insurance industry.
Right.
You might only ever speak to business owners that are in the insurance industry. I obviously talk to quite a diverse range, yet the learnings that both need to have are the same. They're not industry specific. So we thought these are really valuable business conversations that we need to share and bring together and share. And so that's how it was formed. So it is a little bit of a, I don't know if you guys call it a side hustle that's growing, but we're bringing a community of business owners together to share what they know and grow together so that they're not so siloed, I guess is how.
That's a great way of putting it. I had the honor of participating in your virtual summit last year, and I found, people that did things that were very, very different than me. I found it to be incredibly interesting and beneficial. So that is awesome. So okay, so we're just one last question on valuable business conversations. So what are your hopes and dreams for this organization? What do you hope? What do you see for it?
Yeah, so it was actually born before COVID. So we had planned to do a lot of face-to-face workshops where we bring business owners in not industry related. So yeah, Nancy, you participated in the virtual summit last year, so that we'd bring them all together. We would have guest speakers who were experts in their field that had relevance to all business owners.
Right.
All business owners need to know about social media, and you can break that down into Insta, Facebook, etc. All business owners need to know maybe how to recruit better. So we had face-to-face workshops planned. We were literally meant to be in the States in March last year, and we wanted to bring those people together and start those kind of workshops. We will be having our first face-to-face in Australia later this year, fingers crossed. And one day we will get to the States. But at the moment, we're doing everything virtually. We're bringing in guest speakers who are experts in their field that have a valuable business conversation that can be useful for business owners regardless of what industry they're in.
That's really cool. I mean, I could talk to you about virtual assistants, about this forever and ever, but I'm trying to rein myself in, because one of the things that I did one of the main reasons we're going to do this in the first place is I want to talk to you about what it's like as a consumer, patient, whatever we want. What is your healthcare experience like in Australia? Because clearly it's very different from the United States.
Yes, it is. And I think, I can't remember when you and I started talking, but it was obviously must have been because of COVID. And I mean, we were talking before that. We've sat back as Australians and sort of watched America, especially at the beginning last year, and we've just it's been a little bit horrifying and quite sad, actually, for us to think, oh my gosh, what are you guys going through? And then I came to the conclusion that actually when citizens of a nation feel cared for, they are not so angry, they're not so disillusioned about a lot of things. And I had a look at our system. I went, yeah, here in Australia, regardless of where you are and how much money you earn, you can walk into any public hospital, and they're good public hospitals, and be served and have your health care taken care of. And I think as a human being, that gives you a sense of, somebody actually cares for me. At some level, I'm cared for. Whereas from the impression we get from the States, yeah, if you don't have the right money, enough money, you might not get the care that you should get, so to speak. And I'm not talking here about big surgeries, you've just gotten cancer, that kind of thing. I'm just even talking about the small things. And I think whenever you and I were talking about, hey, let's catch up on LinkedIn Live, I think I'd just been into the hospital with my 5-year-old who has really bad asthma. Now, I live 10 minutes from one of Australia's best private hospitals. It has public hospitals, because it has a private one attached, but it's one of the best, Australia's best public hospitals, and it has the best children's ER. It has the best women's hospital, which is where you go and have babies, and that's 10 minutes from me. And I know, and I was there 2 weeks ago on Sunday, 26th of April, again at 5 a.m. with my 5-year-old. Now, I don't have to worry about paying it for any of that. It just will happen with what we call Medicare. I think 5 years ago, short story, I went out to my aunt's sheep station. I think you guys call them ranches. Stepped on a snake. Yep. Stepped on a snake with no shoes on. Just should have been wearing boots. It's snake territory. But anyway, I needed to be ambulance. Meet the ambulance, because it's 20 minutes on a dirt track just to get to a letterbox, let alone a clinic. And then I was airlifted out to the next biggest. That didn't cost me anything. That's just a free service. So there's the extreme that I can know that I'm being backed up and I don't have to worry about this massive credit card bill, to pay for my healthcare. And then my children, anytime I need to take them in, I can just take them in. I don't know how the public health system in the States is funded. Here in Australia, 2% of our taxable income goes to Medicare. So everybody pretty much pays 2% towards public health care. And it's pretty damn good,
So it's only 2%?
2%. Yes.
No, one thing that you mentioned that I didn't know before is you said public and private hospitals.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so we don't have private hospitals everywhere. So if you pay for medical insurance in Australia, you can choose to be served in the private hospital. When I had my babies, like I said, they've got a private and public right next door to each other. I had a choice. I went and I like to keep an open mind, balance. So I went and had a tour of the public hospital, and I liked it so much. They had really good values, and obviously a lot of people, it was an excellent hospital, and I chose to go public even though I could have done private. And I very distinctly remembering in the tour, and there was a big door against this one wall, and they said, oh, that's the corridor into the private hospital. If you go private and anything happens to you, you'll end up being here in the facilities of the public hospital anyway. So I remember thinking, okay, why would I have an outlay to have a baby when if I need it, I'm going to end up here anyway. So I ended up going into the public system, and it's the best women's public hospital in Australia. So there was no problems there. But if you have this private medical insurance, it's good for the extras. We call it the extras. So the physio, the chiropractic, the dental, the optical, it's good for that because it goes toward, you might only have to pay for half of it. And then, if something significant happens, then you can go into private. Oh, someone's asked a question.
Says, which do you like better? And I think you kind of said that that's a little bit of both for your particular situation.
Yeah. So I like where I live, the public system is amazing. But I know I've lived in other areas of Australia where there was a public and a private, and I would choose to go public in those places. So it really just depends on knowing what kind of hospital is where you're at, and I just happen to be really lucky.
So another kind of follow-up question, because I just didn't really know anything about the Australian healthcare system. You keep bringing up hospitals. So are there like independent doctors' offices, or is everything attached to hospitals?
No, there are what we call GPs. Yep, that's free.
Okay.
You can go. Yep, you can rock into any GP with a Medicare card, and they are free. There are private ones that you can pay a small fee for, and it's subsidized by this Medicare. So you again have a choice.
Because one of the things that we run into a lot in the United States, especially if we're looking to do things to help control costs, is we get a lot of pushback about, well, what about my doctor? What about if my doctor isn't in that network? I mean, they have this really strong attachment. Well, I have to be able to see that doctor. Do you have the option to see that doctor? Or is it a little bit more like you need the care, so why don't you just go where you're going to get it?
Yes. Again, there's a choice. So I go to a GP clinic, and there's, half a dozen doctors in there. I have my preferred that I like to go and see, but, she only works, she's not a 24/7. So I need to book in with her. However, if I'm pretty, need to see help, they'll be like, oh, she's not available, but this other doctor is. I'll be like, yeah, just sign me up. I don't mind. So you can be quite specific and say, I want to see a specific doctor, or you don't have to. It's the choice is yours.
So what percentage do you think, I mean, you may not even know this, but I'm just curious, what percentage of people do you think carry private insurance on top of your Medicare?
Really good question, and I wish I had have researched it. It has actually been decreasing in Australia, and I will just say that I actually stopped paying last year. So I forgot to see what the percentage is, but I would say more people have Medicare and less have private health insurance because our public system is so good. And I stopped paying for it because I wasn't going to my chiro as often. I wasn't, all those.
Right.
It was amazing. I mean, my chiro only costs $38 anyway per session. This is US dollars. And so I was going to him nearly every 2 weeks when I had really bad sciatic nerve. And so having my private health covered, half of those costs. Now I don't go. So I'm like, why do I pay? So in the US, an individual to have private health insurance per month, it's $360 For a family, it's on average $890. So if you are using a lot of these, dental, optical, chiro, physio things, it could actually be quite beneficial because you are half of those costs. But, at $38, I have to go quite a lot to get value out of my $360. So it's not as expensive, I don't think, as it is for the States. But yeah, more people are on the public system, and the government in Australia is trying to get people into the private system. So they do give rebates. So they do encourage people. But yeah, most people like me, I live in Sydney, best hospital here, 10 minutes down the road. I don't need, I'll probably pay for it again when I get a little older, when I need a few more of those extra services. But right now, touch wood, my family and I were really healthy. And yeah, so it doesn't really make a difference for us.
That's just so fascinating. I love talking to people about what their experience is like in different countries, because we get so wrapped up in what it's like for us.
Yes.
I think we lose perspective sometimes. So
and you need that perspective. And I know that the States, without getting political and only the small things that there was Obamacare and things like that. I have no idea what percentage of how that was going to be funded. Was it coming out of income tax like it is here? But yeah, we're talking 2%. Our population is a lot smaller than the States. I think we're at 23, maybe 25 million people. You guys are like 100 million, I think. I'm not
or
sure
more.
What you
yeah.
put. Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
So it might not necessarily have to be 2% for you guys if you think about, okay, how do we fund this? Now, also, this Medicare system in Australia, it only came in 1975. So that's not that long ago.
No, it's really not.
Yeah. And it's, 2%. So I don't feel it coming out of my hip pocket, so to speak. But what I do see is in Australia, everybody can get access to medicals. So we've got people that feel cared for. They can access a GP, a doctor, a general practitioner. Right. Yeah. So we have a community of people that just feel cared for by their government, which is really weird, I know.
No, I think that's amazing. I'm sure that a lot of people would absolutely be thrilled to have that feeling in the US, especially over these last couple of years. All right, so we are going to lighten things up, and we are going to talk chickens.
My chickens.
So one of the things, let's see, I remember a LinkedIn post you did. I think you were sitting on the top of the chicken coop, on top of your, I don't remember. You just always made me laugh. But anyway, I want to know how many chickens you have, and have you learned any lessons from the chickens that you can apply to your life or business?
Yes. So we used to have 12. We have 11. So my LinkedIn profile needs to update. One of them died, but that happens. So what have I learned? I've learned from my chickens, if you treat chickens correctly, they will give you eggs, and it's just an unlimited supply every day coming through. They'll be happy, and they'll work for you if you consider laying eggs working, but really they do it anyway. They need a little bit of guidance, and then they go and do their own thing. So when you first get little baby chickens, you need to teach them to go home at night. You need to teach them to roost. But after that, they're good. They just go and do their chicken thing, right? I've still got to check in with them. You still got to go and say, hey, how
so it's kind of like employees.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you still need to give them guidelines. So I need to put a fence up to stop them from coming up to my back door and hanging out and doing chicken poos. So you've got to give guidelines. And in chicken world, that means a fence. So I think they've taught me a lot about, how to treat something else, a chicken, a person. And it's just about respect and going, you need to do your thing. I need to give you what you need to do your thing, and you'll be happy to do it.
I love that. One of the things I've learned over this last year is about storytelling along with whatever your brand is. And one of the things has been around like how almost every experience in your life, if you actually look at it, there's something you can take out of it, and it's something that you can apply. And so I always think it's fun to look at, like, what did you learn from the chickens? Because for sure there's something you learned from the chickens.
Yep. I go out there just to take a chillax and go, I'm just going to go, away from my desk. And I remember during COVID at the beginning when all the kids in Australia, and it happened in the state, had to come home, and I had kids at home running my own business. I went out there and it started to rain. So I'm standing on the chicken and my kid's yelling from the back veranda, Mum, what are you doing? Doing out there? You've been, obviously I've been missing long enough for them to go, where the hell's Mum? And I've yelled back, and I'm sure the neighbours must have been cracking up laughing, I'm taking a break. And they're like, what from? And I'm like, you.
I love it.
And they're like, okay. And then they toddle. But yeah, they just needed to know where I was and why I was standing in the chicken coop for an extended period of time. It's like, I just need
a little me time. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we have made it all the way to my 5 burning questions, which I change them up a little bit, but they stick with a fairly similar structure. My first question is always the same, and I know you're a good cook, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, but it's, what is your absolute favorite food in the world, and can you cook it?
Yeah, really simple. Mud crabs. I don't know if you guys have mud crabs because
is that like a crawdad?
It's a gigantic crustacean. It's a gigantic crab, but they come this big, and they live in the mud. So they live in mangroves and things like that. So I think if you Google it, they're just in our part of the world. So there's a famous dish called Singapore mud crab, maybe you might have heard of. So yeah, mud crab, but I don't even go with the spices. I just like it plain, boiled in water and lemonade and eaten very Asian style with rice.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, so you said lemonade, like lemons are actual lemonade?
Yeah, the soft drink. Yes.
Oh,
it sweetens the water, apparently.
That sounds interesting.
That trick. Well, but their claws are like as big as my hand, you know what I mean? So they're gigantic. Yeah.
So where I live, we have our local crabs are called Dungeness crabs, and they're amazing. It's actually one of my very favorites. They're very sweet. They're just delicious, but they're like that big. So, they're not like that big.
Yeah. These things are big, so you could just have a claw and be happy, and you're not having to dig around so much because the claws are best, right?
Yeah. The Dungeness are kind of medium-sized crabs, I guess, but I love them. They're so good. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Good. Yeah.
And I'll eat crab any way you give it to me. Crab cake, crab salad, crab out of the shell. I don't care. I love it. I love it.
And I don't want to share.
No, me either. Maybe a little butter dipping sauce is always good to go with. Okay, so what is the one character trait you admire most in people and why?
Yeah, so I really had to narrow this down, and I literally only came up with 2. I hope that's okay. Honesty and courage.
I love that.
Yeah,
because I think it takes courage to be honest. Yeah. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
So okay, so now that you identified what you admire most in other people, what's the one character trait that you possess that you're most proud of?
Probably honesty. It gets me in trouble though, because I like to keep things real when it comes to parenting, real in business. And I think a lot of people, they don't. They're trying to, I don't know what it is, but I like it. I like being honest with people, like I said, even if it gets me into trouble. So I won't accept all clients. I will suss them out and then just go, you know what, I don't think we're a fit for whatever reason. And so when I say it gets me into trouble, some people might say, oh my gosh, you're turning away a client. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm being honest. This is not going to be a good relationship going forward. So so I think honesty, and some people also don't want to hear it, but they need to hear it. So so honesty is one of my, I've got to be honest. I need to sleep at night, but also giving that feedback.
I love it. It's wonderful. Okay, so if you could magically get everyone to do one thing to be happier, because I think happiness is in short supply these days, what would it be?
Yeah. So at first I was like, go around and hug everybody, but that's not happening. So I actually, if I could give everybody something, it would be that sense of balance. I was thinking perspective, all that, but I actually think it's about balance. The world would be a better place and everyone would be a lot happier if we could take a deep breath and just be a little bit more balanced in how we approached everything. I'm not, I could go on about this, but there's always two sides to the story. There's always two perspectives. But to move forward, you've got to find that middle ground, that balance. And I think if everybody could just come together and find that balance and find what is good about both sides, I think everybody would be a lot happier.
I couldn't agree more. I'm not going to even, because we could keep going. So I'm going to move on. Okay, so what is your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Yeah, so I had to think about this one, but I actually think it is that I could change a flat tire and change the oil in a car if I had to. And I've known this since I was about 11 years old.
That is a very good talent to have. I think that my new talent is going to be, I'm going to start calling ranches sheep stations. I just think, I don't know why. I just
sheep
love
station,
that.
cattle stations. They're just a station. And it's like, what's a station? It's like, oh, it's like a ranch. So yes.
No, I've actually read enough books that are written in different parts of the country or the world. So I actually knew what you meant, but it just, that word, just makes me smile.
Sheep station. So you guys don't call them stations though, do you? You're just ranch.
It would be a ranch or a farm. So one of the two.
So a farm is smaller in Australia than a ranch. That would be the same in the States, I'm assuming, or not necessarily?
Well, generally farm is more agriculture and ranches are livestock. So that's generally the difference that we tend to see. Yeah. Okay, my last question. Who is the one person that you've connected with on LinkedIn that you would most like to meet in person? Or if it's not that, maybe a podcast host that you would love to sit down and share some mud crabs with?
Yes. So I didn't want to sound like I was, being too something here, but actually we need to meet in person.
You were going to meet before COVID.
I know, exactly right. So I've got a few. There's you, there's Rain Casman, Brian Sexton. So there was this group of little Americans that we all just met just the year before COVID happened. And it's like, but because we need to cook together. We need to get in the kitchen and cook.
And we're going to film it too.
Yes. And we may start a whole new.
Yeah. I will have a big glass of wine in our hands.
Yes.
So Christian says tires, oil changes, and chickens. I mean, you are just, you can do it all. Okay. So, I don't, my mom. So Judy happens to be my mom, just FYI. So you have
Judy.
She's amazing. So, okay. So I want to close with how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in your VA services, and they want to learn more. What would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Jump on LinkedIn, find Dee Mills with the chickens. I don't think there's a lot of Dee Millses on LinkedIn. That would probably be the best way to reach out to me. And then, I'm happy to just to have a chat about, okay, where are you at in business? What do you need to have in place for VA? Because you might not yet be ready. So if you're at that beginning journey, absolutely happy to have a chat. And I have a lot of people who come to me for that initial kind of conversation. And then 6 months, 12 months down the track, they come back to me. So it's like a no pressure. I'm not going to be putting you into a sales pipeline going, how are you going? You want to VA? Do you want to VA? Yeah. It's like, let's have that scope conversation, see where you're at. You might be ready. You might like, yep, we're on it. Or you might like go, okay, I do need to get a few systems and processes in place and come back to me at a later date. That's absolutely okay.
Okay. And does Unstoppable Teams have a website?
Yes, but I don't think it's up yet.
Okay. All right. So connect with Dee. She is linked in the description of this podcast. If for some reason you can't find her, reach out to me directly and I will put you in touch with her. And my mom apparently is really enjoying this show because she said, you two girls are amazing. So
when I come to the States, we will be cooking and we will be filming. Yeah.
Yes,
we'll do a whole series.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Dee. This was just, it was just just touched my heart to be able to spend some time with you. And I hope that everyone else enjoyed it. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.